Hi guys, Rob here from ServiceScaler. Thanks for tuning in. Today I have the privilege of doing a session with Brendan Kelso from Legalsites. Brendan, welcome.
Hello everybody, it's good to be here.
Mate, it's awesome to have you here and I really appreciate you taking the time and spending the time with me to do this. So to kick things off, I'd like people to find out how we met because I think it's an interesting story.
Yep. Nothing embarrassing, really. We just connected through LinkedIn. I actually had no idea that you lived in Newcastle, and then I looked at your profile, and I'm like, oh my god, he's got like photos of I can't say what it's called, but around where the foreshore is, that iconic building in Newcastle that I don't know if is still there. And I'm like, oh, this guy's from Newey. So yeah, we met up for coffee. I think as soon as we were legally allowed to meet up for coffee, once the lockdown restrictions were eased up.
I'm sure it was day one of restrictions easing. We went, let's go and catch up for coffee. And my favorite part about the way that we met is that, I just connected with you on LinkedIn, worked in the same industry and same sector, had similar interests. And I went, okay, well, that's a good way to kick things off, but establishing that meaningful relationship. So actually going out and having coffee. So doing something off platform was invaluable because we're both from Newey. We both have similar values and similar ethics. We both love what we do in business. So it's just been really good. Speaking of, having good morals and ethics and what we do in business and why we love doing what we do, how did you get into Legalsites?
It wasn't a straightforward thing. Like I think a lot of people kind of find out what they want to do through finding out what they don't want to do. So I did my law degree. It might look like in the background that I have 4 degrees. I'd like everyone to think that's true, but it's not. That's just a mirror image. So there's the law degree up there and there's the communication degree. So once I finished my law degree, after a few things, I tried a few things I didn't want to do. And then I'd been building websites for about 5 years, running a DJ business called Advantage DJs. I have many interests in life. And so I had been building websites, and I think I always knew I enjoyed building websites, but I didn't want to admit how much I enjoyed websites and SEO and online marketing. And I got the idea to start a business where I would be providing those services to the legal industry specifically. And I did an online course that really opened my eyes to the importance of choosing a niche. Well, not everyone needs to do that, but that's worked well for me. And everything just went really, really well. It got off to a really good start, and now I'm talking to you on Zoom, and life's good.
The subject matter expert. It's amazing how those things come about, and I think you're in a really interesting or an advantageous position in terms of your market segment that you're focused on, with what you love to do, because you have a background in law. In fact, you have a degree in that, but you love marketing. So it's like something that you're really good at and something that you love to sort of come together and enables you to go forward and do what you do. So that passion for that is, and obviously being able to deliver a really good service around that is a pretty amazing story. So I love that.
Yeah. So how about you tell us your story in case some people have never heard that before? So how did you get into ServiceScaler?
I've had I'd say a long and interesting career. The grey hair will give away the long. It's been an interesting career. So I grew up in Tamworth out in regional New South Wales, and I'd always wanted to be an engineer, so a civil or structural engineer. And everything I did in high school was leading into that. And I applied for a job, and the place that I applied for a job at, I knew someone who worked there, and they said, oh, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm applying for a job in engineering. And they said, oh, would you like a job in IT? And I went, okay, maybe, I guess so. That'd be all right. I was young, I wanted a job. So I got into IT there, and that's where my career started. Got into systems admin, so managing infrastructure and computers and help desk support and all of those things. So I have a technical background. From there, that was in public sector. I moved into private sector, started doing some stuff around document management and process automation and those types of things. Still continuing to do support, managed services, IT. Still technical, still sitting on the technical side, but moving across into business analytics and scoping and project management and all those types of things along the way. Career progressed and I kept doing that. So moving further and further along the line, doing business analytics and process automation, very focused around the software and relating that to business. And my immediate previous role to this, I was GM of a software company in Sydney, and that's what we did. So I sort of got my hands on everything in the business. So not just the technical side, but the operational side of the business, sales and marketing. You know, that's an all-encompassing role that sort of gave me great exposure to everything. But that was in Sydney. And as much as I love visiting Sydney, it's not a place that I wanted to be permanently to bring up a young family. So now in Newcastle, and yeah, it was great to have the opportunity with ServiceScaler. I'd done some work in legal previously, obviously had a background in IT, and I love business development. I just love sales. I love talking to people. I love being able to deliver a good service. That's what makes me feel good at the end of the day, is actually getting a win for my clients. So yeah, it was just kind of a match made in heaven about 6 months ago. So we've got that off the ground. So when I was brought in was when we did our brand launch, got that off the ground, and it's all been going well ever since.
That's amazing, man. And you're maybe the first IT guy that I've met that's not wearing a hoodie.
Possibly. I still love the suit and tie thing. I think it works for me. It's my personal brand. I think we've spoken about this before. It's really just my my sort of personal brand thing.
Yeah, let's just be honest. You told me that this is what you sleep in as well.
It's true. Yeah, these are actually my pajamas. I got out of bed and my hair was done, the suit was already on, and I just jumped onto the Zoom session. So.
Yeah, well, you know, that sounds lovely. I can't relate to that in any way, shape, or form. But not that I'm trying to take over the interview here, but I am curious. Let's be honest. Like we did write down some talking points, and I'm looking at them right now. And what I would like to know is, to all the lawyers out there listening to you right now, what would be maybe 3 of the biggest problems that you're solving for law firms and lawyers during these, you know, strange times?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is probably a couple of things we do, and it's not just a strange times thing. It's sort of what we lead with. So this is our brand and what we do. Number one is provide immediate access to good service. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is that our service desk, when you call our service desk, you speak to an engineer. You just talk directly to the engineer. You pick up the phone, you call us, you speak to the engineer. I mean, there's still a ticketing process and everything that happens in the background, as happens with most IT companies. But with us, you just talk to the engineer. It's great. So you just get immediate access to service, and that's a really powerful thing to have. Our personnel, one of the other things that we pride ourselves on is our personnel and our areas of expertise. So we only do IT for law firms. That's what we do. And the reason that we do that is because our people internally are well educated and knowledgeable around all of the things, pieces of software and bits of technology within law firms. So we know about stuff like dictation, we know about signing platforms, we know about the practice management systems people use, we know how to integrate those platforms together and connect them together. We know about the cybersecurity and where firms are being hacked and penetrated and malicious activity being performed against firms. We know about the operations and things that firms do, you know, regardless of their practice area. We've got a good comprehension of practice areas. We've got good relationships throughout the industry as well with people like yourself. So we're well seated in that area, and because we have access to good knowledge and good resources and good networks, it means that the efficiency that we can deliver services through to our clients is really high. So we deliver with high level of efficiency. High level of efficiency from our point of view means that we can keep the costs down. So the other thing that we do for firms is reduce the costs of delivering IT services to them as well, which we're really proud of. So those are our sort of 3 key things that we do for our clients. And I'm pleased that you asked this question, because for me, this is bread and butter. So I talk about this stuff day in, day out, and I don't find it exciting. I'm sure other people do, but I'm more interested about the key problems that you solve for your clients, because I love sales and marketing, and you're a marketing guy. So I'm interested to hear this. Tell me about the three big things that that you do or solve, or problems you solve for law firms.
Well, the bread and butter of Legalsites is law firm websites, SEO, and quite a few other things that we do. But I would say it's hard to put it into three. But yeah, there's a law firm websites, SEO, and then advertising like Google Ads, Spotify ads, copywriting, a lot of consulting and advice on marketing. But definitely the two big things is the law firm websites and the SEO. I guess the main problems that we're solving, well, a lot of lawyers don't have time to do marketing, don't want to do marketing, it doesn't interest them, they want to do the law, they don't want to or can't train themselves to become a web developer and an SEO specialist. It's just would not make no sense at all. It's unlikely that they would have a member of staff that has that level of ability to build them a website that will generate them leads and actually get them found on Google search. So I guess that's where I come in. I see maybe one of the big advantages of my brand is that I do have that legal background, and I do see a lot of other agencies that don't seem to really understand what lawyers are actually doing. They don't seem to really understand the language and how to communicate appropriately and ethically. They don't understand the ethical guidelines that are faced by law firms. And if we go back many years ago, many law firms weren't really allowed to market themselves either. So it's kind of still a fairly new thing. But understanding what a family lawyer actually does, what a criminal lawyer does, understanding wills and estates and all these other common practice areas, that's a big thing, is understanding what on earth law firms really do. And I personally don't know how you could build a really effective lead generating law firm website if you don't truly understand what on earth they actually do. And that's a big reason why I decided to do this niche of law firms, because I can't realistically become a copywriting expert on numerous different industries, because my brain's just not that big. So
At least you're honest. At least you're honest about it too.
Yeah, well, I pushed myself through, 5 years at university, and my brain almost exploded. And then I thought, well, geez, I'm not going to learn I'm not going to become an expert on hairdressers and engineers and dentists and medical centers. Like, I just can't do it. So I went with law firms.
And and what I love most about that, and you touch on something that's really important. Specializing in that area, and like you say, you don't want to learn about engineers or hairdressers or what other businesses do, and this is where it sort of you differentiate yourself from an outsider looking at it objectively. This is where you differentiate yourself, because when most people would engage someone to do their website for them, the first thing that the website provider would do is go, okay, you need to give me all of the content you need to put on the site. You need to write everything. You need to write all of the copy. You need to, try and explain what it is that you do and how you do it. But coming to somebody like you go, okay, tell me what your firm does. Great. Well, I can build you something around that, because you just know, right?
I had a client come to me, and obviously not naming any names, but when I took over the SEO campaign, I had a look at what the other agency had done, and it seemed like they were leaving some fake reviews for this law firm from not real clients, and reviews for services they don't do. So like personal injury and stuff, and they don't even do that. So I hastily got those reviews removed, because obviously there's some real serious issues with doing that. But that's just a quick example. Like, we're talking about an agency in Sydney, right, that obviously I'm not going to name, but were they paying attention to this law firm and what they really do? I'd have to think, well, maybe not. Were they outsourcing to India? Possibly. So, yeah, that's an extreme example of the risk that a law firm might take if they do hire an agency that doesn't have a strong track record of working with law firms. I would be very careful in asking who actually works for the agency. Are they outsourcing to India, to other countries other than Australia that maybe don't really understand the legal industry in Australia? Because that's actually more common than you'd think.
Yeah, it's an interesting
It's
thing.
real talk. It's real talk right here. You know, I'm not afraid to put it out there. Obviously, no one's being named right now, but I do often have to fix up the mess from agencies that have not done the right thing by the client.
Yeah, and when you say the right thing by the client, what do you mean by that? Like, let's I'd like to dig into that a little bit. What does the right thing by the client actually look like? Because this is something that me personally, I'm very passionate about. Is when I'm competitive, and when I think of a win, I go, okay, what does a win look like for me? I like to actually see my client win. So any win I can provide for my client, that makes me feel good. So I'd like to understand from your point of view, just digging into that a little bit, what does doing the right thing by your client actually look like?
I think it really starts with actually paying attention, and our brains can only, well, I know my brain can only deal with a limited amount of stuff every day, and everyone else really, that's the case for everyone. So you need to be paying attention to the client. You need to be actually, that's it. You got to pay attention because we are living in the attention economy right now, and there are unlimited distractions out there. So a good agency needs to be focusing on what the law firm actually does, what they actually want, and their team needs to fully understand that. But it's just putting in the time, putting in the effort, and I think you'll pay attention if you really care about what you do. Like, unfortunately for myself, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to online marketing. And like, I'll wake up at like 5 a.m. in the morning and I'm thinking about marketing for some reason. So you got to love it. If you don't love it, then it'd be horrible. Right. So
Yeah,
that's what I think. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I sell a commodity. IT is very much a commoditized thing. So whether we're talking about hardware, whether we're talking about services, it doesn't matter what we're talking about in context of IT, it's all a commodity. And it's hard to get excited about that, or be passionate about that. But what I am passionate about is when I advise somebody or give them good advice or make good recommendations and they implement those or they put those things in place, and then they reap the reward of that on the other side. So, recommendations around, here's some good cybersecurity stuff you can put in place, or here's a good recommendation around how you can manage SharePoint and Teams is some stuff that we do all the time. And there seems to be really limited knowledge in the marketplace about that. Here's your best practices around Teams and SharePoint. Here's how you can maximize that for your business. And people put that in place and they just go, wow, this is so easy. Why weren't we doing this before? So I like that sort of stuff. And I'm a bit like you, right? I'll wake up at 5 a.m. and go, oh, I've got this great idea of how I can help my client do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a strange life. In the spirit of being as helpful as possible, do you mind if I just give a few quick tips on what law firms could do right now, considering maybe money's a bit tight, and what they could do with their marketing?
Yeah, I would love you to do that. And I think that this is probably the point of this session where if you want some takeaways, this is the bit to listen to.
Okay.
So fire away.
I'll just fire away. Okay. So these are just some quick notes that I wrote down. So a lot of people so there's Facebook groups, right? And a lot of people go on these Facebook groups and they discuss various different things, but every now and then someone's going to bring up a legal issue in a Facebook group. I'll give you an example because I still have involvement in the wedding industry. I'm part of a wedding Facebook group, and a lot of them run businesses, and sometimes they have disputes with clients, and they put forth a legal issue in the Facebook group, and then the people who are answering those legal issues are never lawyers. They are people who do not have a legal background, obviously just trying to be helpful, but a large amount of people don't feel comfortable approaching law firms. They don't feel comfortable approaching a lawyer. They don't know how much it's going to cost. They're afraid, various other reasons. So right now would be a perfect time to be doing some research, to go into Facebook groups that would fit the type of demographic that your clients are, and not soliciting clients, but just quietly paying attention to the conversation that is going on. What issues are people having right now? So there's one simple thing. Another thing, maybe not specifically marketing, but I would be making an effort to get in touch with your existing client relationships, all of your existing connections, letting them know that you are open, you are ready for business. If you're not open for business, then I think you can also clarify that. But if you are open for business, strengthen those existing relationships, because I had a chat with a management consultant yesterday, and he said that some law firms are experiencing a 90% drop in new client inquiries. So client acquisition is down. There's not a lot that can be done about that. So strengthening those existing relationships, asking people what they need, just so they know that you're ready and willing to help. So those are some quick things. I can keep. Do you want me to keep going?
I'm enjoying them.
I'll keep going. Okay.
They're valuable stuff. I mean, these are valuable takeaways that I would like to think that our audience can just take and apply in the real world right now. So
yes. So there could be multiple other revenue streams that your law firm could explore right now via existing clients that you have. It's much easier to convince someone to do business with you if they have done business with you in the past, because you're known, liked, and trusted. You're not a stranger anymore. It's also much cheaper as well. But also, let's see, what else have I got here on my notes? Some other quick little marketing things that you can do with your websites. So free things. These things are free, not three things. So some free advice. You don't have to come to Legalsites and pay me all this money. You can do this yourself. So you could go to neilpatel.com and you can do a free site audit on your law firm website. I tell people all the time to do that. And that'll let you know the issues with your website from an SEO perspective. So search engine optimization. If there are some faults and mistakes in your website that are limiting its appearance in Google search, then the site audit's going to show you what some of those things are. It'll explain why they matter and how they can be fixed. Many of those things, you probably could fix them yourself. You might not need to hire a web developer for some of the basic stuff. I would be looking at your website and just ensuring that all your lead generation is actually working. So the buttons that you're meant to click to call the office, do they actually all work? I know this is really simple stuff, but it's amazing how many websites make mistakes with their lead generation. You click a button and it doesn't actually call, or it calls the wrong number, or you click a button to email and it doesn't work. There's so many broken links. So make sure all your lead generation is actually working. So when you do get someone to your website, they can actually get in touch with you. I would also ensure that if you are open for business, that you should clarify that on your website. It should be clear from first glance. As soon as someone goes onto your homepage, they should see a banner that says, "We're open for business, click here to learn more." And that's where you explain, how you've adapted and simple things like that. You are open for business. Also, I've probably been talking a lot, but we mentioned this before. We still are fairly new. Like we've only just met each other in the last couple of weeks. Maybe set yourself a goal to build one meaningful connection per week. LinkedIn's a good place to start, especially if you're in the B2B. One meaningful connection per week. Because if you ask yourself, as a lawyer especially, ask yourself, have you ever received a client based on a word of mouth referral? And I would suspect that for 99.9% of lawyers, the answer to that is, of course. If that's the case, then why not build one meaningful connection per week, especially right now if there is a little bit of extra time, right?
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, if we didn't go through that process on LinkedIn, you know, we wouldn't have certainly had the opportunity to hang out and do this. And, you know, if I have a firm that I'm working with that says, oh, hey, Rob, do you know someone who does websites? Or, you know, hey, Rob, do you know someone who can help us out with our digital marketing strategy? I have someone to go to. I have someone to refer, someone that I trust, that's easy to refer. And I can't do that if I don't know you.
Yes.
It's actually that simple. And so going through the process of making that, that relationship or that connection meaningful. I spoke about this the other day in a post on LinkedIn. It might have even been a comment that I made somewhere. And I think it was possibly even on your post, that LinkedIn is like a networking event. You go to LinkedIn and there's heaps of people there and you have dismissive conversations. So, you know, the interactions are very short, they're very quick. Everyone sort of just says, oh, hi, I'm Rob. I am a sales guy from an IT company for law firms. And they go, oh, that's wonderful. And that's about the extent of it. It's only when you go off platform, so outside the constraints of the networking event, which is, in this case, is LinkedIn, you take them outside of that environment and you have that meaningful conversation. And, you know, when we went and had coffee a couple of weeks back, you know, I learned a lot about you, about your background, where you came from, what you're passionate about, your morals and ethics. And just by having that conversation, I went, okay, well, here's a guy that shares the same values as me, does great work for his clients. So I've seen the work that you've done. And obviously being a sales and marketing professional, I'm really excited about that too. So I can see the good things that are happening there. And it makes it really easy for me to refer you. So I just go, okay, someone needs a website, just go to Brendan. He's a good guy. He will do the right thing by you. He does good quality work. And I would only know that by having that meaningful relationship. So
yes, I'm glad that you clarified that. So when I talk about one meaningful connection, I don't mean adding someone to Facebook or adding someone to LinkedIn. It's actually following through, having that face-to-face. If you can't meet up face-to-face, if you're in different locations, that's cool. Zoom's great. You can FaceTime. Just 10 minutes talking to a stranger, discussing each other's businesses, having a laugh, that can really grow into something really strong down the line. You never know, you might get a call in 6 months' time, and that 10-minute FaceTime that you had with basically a complete stranger is now turned into a new opportunity, a new client.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right. Well, I think we've waffled on for long enough about stuff that I think is pretty high value. I've actually really enjoyed our catch up. I always do. So Brendan, thank you very, very much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much, mate. All the best.
Cheers. Thank you.